Yeah, so I think we both want to share about our story and our journey to really help you each understand like where Reiki can take you from and just the healing that it's provided both of us. So that's kind of the angle that we'll go through in the journey of life. So I mean, I already introduced myself. Lex just got blew up somehow on the screen, so I don't know what happened. We'll just it just like made you really big. Okay, so starting over. Yeah, so as I've already said, I'm Julia, and you've met me, so I'll share my story. Going back in time, so growing up, like I really struggled a lot because I grew up in an alcoholic home. And as a kid, I wasn't really sure, like I didn't get that. But what I did feel is that I had a lot of anxiety, really intense anxiety about being perfect at school, and also just like intense social anxiety where if somebody didn't message me back right away over text back when that was new, I would always create these stories that it's because there's something wrong with me, people are going to abandon me or leave me or whatever. And that was really tough because the only way I thought I could control like not getting hurt by people was to just be the best at everything, to be the perfect athlete, to be the perfect, person in school, et cetera, et cetera. And that was really problematic because it meant that I was always chasing something that I could never really achieve and I never felt good enough. And so, like, amidst that kind of turbulent upbringing and the way I felt about myself, I just was like a serial perfectionist and it led me into a lot of trouble, especially with my body image was one of the main ways that I felt like I really struggled with. I just constantly thought my body was never good enough. I struggled with an eating disorder. I'd had anorexia for a while. And even though I recovered from that, I was still always tormented by that anxiety of never being good enough. And it really haunting me in a lot of areas of my life. And eventually in university, I became suicidal because I just couldn't handle the pain and the dialogue, and I didn't know how to get out of it. And so most people in my life just thought, oh, she's got it all together, and like would never know that I was struggling that much. And it was still quite new at the time to even go to therapy. So anyway, when I was really struggling, I decided to seek out like the crisis help center at school. And luckily that kind of pivoted my journey to healing and getting support outside of myself and going to a psychologist. And that really opened me up to, okay, like there are tools that we can understand how to heal those patterns that we're struggling with. After a while, I felt like I wasn't really getting to the real root of it all. And I felt like there was a lot more healing to do. And I came out of a relationship with a narcissist and a person who was really unhealthy for me. And I just knew I've done a lot of therapy now. There has to be something else. And Lex was one of the people that recommended Reiki as like a different method. And I'd heard a lot of it too, just where I worked. And I was like, sure. I was pretty skeptical, to be honest, because I'm a very like analytical person. But after my first session, I connected with myself in a way that I didn't know was really possible because of that, because I was actually a little bit closed off spiritually. And so it really opened me up in the sense that I had a healing with my younger self. I saw my younger self as a child. I've experienced a lot of healing with my mom, who was the alcoholic in my family. And through continuing to see our Reiki master, Jose, for sessions, eventually I felt so much like awakening from that with myself, my connection to spirituality, my connection to my own healing, that he invited and encouraged me and Lex, and she'll tell you, to join the levels. And then through going through level 1, level 2, and the master class, it was like, yeah, my whole life eventually changed. I quit my job, my corporate job of 8.5 years. I left to start my own business. I healed that, trauma in relationships. I had a lot of issues with men and partnerships. I worked through a lot of stuff around my body. And the thing is, Reiki in itself wasn't like the only thing that healed me, but what it did was it provide such a level of awakening and healing in my life that the things that I needed on top of that showed up. So I realized that what else I needed to kind of fill the gaps in my life, and in my healing toolbox. And, like my literally every part of my life changed. I healed my relationship with my mom. I had so much resentment towards her. I never thought that was going to be possible. I used to be in crazy amounts of financial debt. like I worked through all of that stuff and healed my relationship issues with men, like did a lot of healing on my body image and being able to be loving and accepting of my body and confident in my body, and you know, healing patterns and relationships with food and restricting myself and just like everything, like so literally couldn't think of an area of my life that hasn't changed. And that's what, you know, at the end of the day, also this feeling of connecting to myself and knowing that I don't like need anyone in my life to fill me up. I used to be so anxious alone and need a partner, need a boyfriend at all times. And now it's like I'm so at peace with myself and so content with this like loving presence of energy within me at all times that I truly feel like whole, as cheesy as it is. It's like I don't need someone to fill me up. Like if that happens, oh my god, sorry. If that happens, it's like it's great. Like I'm happy to have a partner and like all that stuff, but I don't need it in the way that I used to in the past to like fill a gap, if that makes sense. So yeah, all in all, to summarize, yeah, I feel like today I'm the most like confident, authentic, powerful version of my and happy, peaceful version of myself that I have ever been. And so much of that is from Reiki. And, you know, it will lead you into so much magic. And yeah, I hope that that helped give a window into it. And it will also help you on your purpose, lastly, because this is obviously what we're doing now with you, our students, is we're able to help you through this. And Lex and I both have our separate practices, and I focus on body image and confidence with women, the things that I struggle with the most. So it Reiki will lead you into your purpose, because that's what it's here to do, to lead you into your authentic path. So it's quite the mouthful. I'll lead it over to Master Lex. And I feel like it's almost like we have a panel where we need like to hear questions from you now, but you're not here. You're with us, but you're not present. But you can ask us in.
But we feel whoever's watching this right now, we do feel your energy.
Yes, but thank you for listening. Hope that gave you a better window into me and us after Lex shares. And yeah, it's important that you know who's leading you through this work and that we've been through shit too. We're not just like holier than thou. Like we're constantly focusing on ourselves and our healing, and we still are to this day. It's like the ever evolving journey of up leveling. It's really exciting. Over
Yeah.
to you, Master.
Thank you. Yeah, that's what we're here to do. We're here to work on ourselves, and you know, none of us are saints, but we are really happy to light the way, and that's what the definition of luminaries is. So, if we can be that for you, we're very honored to do that. So, thank you, Julia, for your introduction. And yeah, a little about me. Where do I begin? I mean, when I was a child, I was very sensitive. I had a narcissistic parent. I had a lot of anxiety from early on. And like from as early as I can remember, I was just an anxious kid. And it's because I realize now that I was so anxious, just sensitive to energy, people, and everything around me. Um, and so I was always sensitive, like until this very day, still sensitive, but it's now it's evolved into like an empowered sensitivity where I see it as a gift rather than something that holds me back. But what the thing is with the anxiety, when you don't have the tools or language or understanding of why I'm so overwhelmed by everything, is it can be quite destructive. So when I was a teenager, I was just a very destructive person to myself and to the world around me. Like I was just I was like into cutting, just like self violation, heavy drinking, things like that, because that's how I protected myself. That was because I was so sensitive and so anxious. So I always, through that, like even when I was young, always had a spiritual sense. Like I always knew there was something more. I was really like connected in some way and didn't really understand that either. Um, and you know, found different ways like yoga, etc., that really did help me. And Julia was a friend who I met along the journey who was also like, I know she said she wasn't really into the spirituality, but she was really curious about all the stuff that I was as well, and into psychology and things like that. So that's what we initially bonded over, when we used to work together a long time ago. Um, and so I always had this spiritual sense, but never really felt like I could share that with other friends. Like Julia was really the only friend who I could talk to about this stuff. Um, and so yeah, 6 or so years ago, when we found Reiki, that was like, it was like permission. It was like permission for me to express my spiritual side, to um, heal a lot of my anxiety, to understand my sensitivity, and to realize there was nothing wrong with me. I was in when I remember first, like my first Reiki session. I like remember what I was wearing. I remember everything about it, and I was in this like just dark cloud, and my healer to this day even remembers that. And he says it was like a dark cloud was over me. It truly was. I was just in such a self-loathing place, and Reiki was really like a last resort. To backtrack, I started going because I was in a car accident and thought like that might work, and it did, for my back pain. And so with with the Reiki healing, I yeah, again, it was just this permission, and I felt like that first day that I went for a healing, I felt like I was home. And it was like, or at least I had walked into the foyer. Like I was like, okay, I feel safe here. This person, this healer, like gets me and can help me, but also empower me to do the work on my own. And then again, like Julia said, got invited to the level one. And that was like, again, just home. It just felt right. And it was a no-brainer to continue on and do all of it until the master class. And that's when, yeah, that's when I was like, this is what I'm gonna like, this is what I'm meant to do. I'm meant to somehow help people, get to this place too, because I, just like Julia and probably a lot of you, it's like coming from a dark place, a painful place, and knowing that there's something more and there's something better and that you're more. um, that's really, why a lot of healers are called to do what we do. It's like we don't all just come from the light. We all do, but we have been to a dark place in ourselves, and we want to help. Um, we want to help other people, find that light as well. So, I mean, there's so much more, but you can, of course, ask, both of us any questions along the way. This is kind of like just a quick intro to show you again, that we we have a story, and hopefully you can find something from one of our stories or both to relate to, because we're all so similar in this journey. So yeah, a little about me, um, and yeah, that's it. Unless Julia wants to add something, she knows me better than I know
Your
myself.
journey. I know it's like it's we always say this because we hear our stories all the time when we share them in class, but you always learn something new. And yeah, it's just such a lovely reflection too, because I felt like I've said this to Lex a lot of times, and I'm pointing this way. She's probably this way on the screen, but it's like I've always felt like Lex has been like my spiritual angel in life, because I too was at like such a dark point in my life when we met. It was like I feel like we both just really helped each other through, the depths and the darkness of our lives into this, like it's like this little butterfly transformation. And yeah, like Reiki really helped facilitate that for us. And it's so important to feel like you have, I'm so fortunate to have her in my life, and she's my best friend. It's like, but you too will find so much of this light with each other, hopefully with us, and through the Reiki journey. It just really brings about such a connection of love and acceptance and trust and joy. And like, it's so cool to be able to go through this with people that you trust and feel safe. Like, it's just the most important thing. And yeah, like I didn't even know what the fuck spirituality was before Reiki. Like I knew, like said, I knew there was like something greater than us, and like, grew up with some semblance of religion, but I didn't even like, it was like one like speck into the the opening that it is now. So it's really exciting.
Absolutely. And yeah, such an honor to work together. And a lot of our students say, they feel like before the class they're like living in the spiritual closet and they have nobody to talk to, and that this group is really wonderful to make those connections. And that's kind of like how we were before we met each other, is like having a lot of like surface relationships. Then you meet that one person, it's like some soul connection, and you
Yeah.
help each other. So hopefully along this journey maybe you'll find somebody.
Yeah. Well, beautiful. I feel like we really got connected and we're excited to hear from each of you in class. And I think that's all we have for you, right?
I think so.
Onward and upwards to the light we go.
See you soon.
Bye.